John, are you here?
Yep.
Okay, can you get on the mic? Okay, everybody, we're going to start with housing rights for all. As soon as John gets on the mic. I can't see him. Oh, now I can see him.
There he is. Mr. Ford, let's show Mr. Ford.
Two. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for being here. We are the Emergency Housing Coalition. There's a whole bunch of different groups that have come together because we are all so concerned about the lack of housing in Rhode Island, and especially for those who have been living outside on the street, and there are still people out there. Even with the Cranston Armory, there are only 50 people that can sleep in there, and there are 50 other chairs, so 50 people can sit in chairs. But I don't know how you feel about sleeping in a chair, but unless I need it physically because I'm sick in some way, that would not be by choice.
I love sleeping in chairs. They must be like big lazy boys, right? And you kick your feet up. Is that the kind of chair they got?
No.
No, they don't got that?
No, they don't. In fact, the beds?
Yeah.
Were you imagining that the beds were
like four posters, really nice?
Yeah, with really thick mattresses?
Yeah, is it more like a cot?
It's a cot.
An army cot?
It's a cot.
That's tough.
It's a cot. So, we don't think that's good enough for our people in Rhode Island, and we don't believe anyone else believes that either. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to start with housing rights for all, our round, and I'm hoping we can make some noise while we are here on this corner in Providence, Rhode Island. So here we go. Housing rights for all people, this is our call. We will never stop fighting for housing rights for all.
Housing
People, this is our call. We will never stop fighting for housing.
All right, this side over here, you follow me. Here we go.
Housing rights for all. We will never stop fighting for housing.
We will never stop fighting for housing rights for all.
We will never stop fighting for housing.
We will never stop fighting for housing rights for all. Housing rights for all.
Thank you. Give yourself a hand. Unless you are holding something, then don't do that. Anyway, we are very thankful that we have been given the cutouts that signify the different faces of unhoused people that we might see in our community, and we are very thankful that we've been lent them today. So thank you very much. I am Pamela Poniatowski. I am a tri-chair from the Rhode Island Poor People's Campaign. The Poor People's Campaign is a national call for moral revival, and we stand against systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation and the denial of health care, militarism and the war economy, and the false moral narrative of Christian nationalism. And we have already written a third reconstruction. It's on our page at poorpeoplescampaign.org. And we also have a Jubilee program. And both of them speak to the rights of everyone. And when we lift from the bottom, everybody rises. So I'd like to invite our first speaker to come talk. And this is Terry Wright. and she is a member of DARE. And thank you, Terry.
Thank you. I just want to say, housing is a human right. House the homeless now. So here we are, December 21st, one of the longest nights of the year. And here we stand strong and unshaken and in unity and in protest 4 days before Christmas. In the beginning, the housing crisis required a few open buildings to meet people's needs with urgency until more sustainable solutions were put into place. But fast forward to 2022, when nobody cares, nobody gets done, nothing gets done. 2,000 years in the end and still no housing. Not enough for everyone. Who cares how much it costs to save a life? Just get it done. We have the funds to get it done. The money is not coming from your own pocket. Our state is nearing chaos, total chaos, and you have the authority to get things done. We demand that the homeless are treated with human decency in their time of need. Homelessness affects everyone, even those who are not directly affected. No one should be forced to live outdoors, abandoned, and left to die in frigid temperatures. 76 people, 76 lives lost, 2 amputations, and counting. Homelessness is a state of emergency. It's trauma. Mental illness happens, displacement, in a time where even the most urgent medical needs go neglected and unchecked, right? Because who's really checking when they're homeless and forced to take residency outside? They're just trying to survive. Even a bee has a hive, and an Eskimo has an igloo. But what does Rhode Island have? A governor with a broken promise of shelter for everyone by Thanksgiving? Well over 1,000 Rhode Islanders are homeless. There's your reality check. There are your numbers. We need the governor to bring back the hotel voucher program and house the rest of our unsheltered families and their loved ones before further harm is done, before they freeze to death, lose a body part due to an amputation, drug overdose, some new drug use, alcohol poisoning to try to keep warm. It's happening. We need hotel beds now. We need poverty to end now. We need racism and inequality to end now. We need justice to prevail now, not tomorrow. Governor Dear McKee, use your authority to save lives. 4 days before Christmas. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have another speaker.
I'd like to start off with a little Christmas story, and many of you may not remember, but 22 years ago I slept underneath that tree for 4 months with 20 other individuals who could not find a place. So you just closed Welcome Arnold and there was no shelter. You couldn't find a shelter bed. There wasn't even a phone number you could call. People were literally forced out of the shelter with no place to go. So we camped out underneath that tree. There were about 20 of us. And I'll tell you now, homelessness does kill. Many of the people that were camping underneath those trees are now deceased, and they died under the age of 50 because we didn't care enough to deal with the conditions that led them to be homeless. Many of them had chronic health conditions. And it's a shame that we have people sleeping outside. And homelessness can happen to anyone. It could be your brother, your sister, somebody falling on hard times. The rents here are horrible. They just tore down our house at 11 Vinton Street. It's now torn down. We were 3 families, working class families, we had to leave. They gave us 30 days. It's now a hole in the ground. We struggled to find a place. And I can't imagine, we're working. Rents are $1,600, $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. People are being priced out of the market. It's become a commodity and it's shameful. And people need to have human dignity. They need to have a home. They need to raise their children in a safe, affordable housing for everyone. And you know, homeless people are children, they're women, they're elderly people. You know, we tend to see people out on the street, but for every person you see on the street, there's probably 50 or 100 other people who are living in shelters, doubled up, living in their car with their children and their pets. And it's a horrible situation. It's a human dignity, it's a human right. Everyone has a right to housing, and it needs to happen now. The governor needs to open up hotel beds for people who don't have a place to go. He needs to invest in 500 units of affordable housing for people, and that needs to happen right away. He needs to set up pallet shelters for people who are living outside so they can have a safe place to stay. We're talking about 20 people living in small homes together in a community, which would help them to connect to the community that has thrown them out. So like I said, I'll repeat, we need the shelter beds through the hotels. We need the pallet shelters, and we need we need the funding for 500 units of affordable housing. That's what needs to happen. That's the long-term plan, is the housing, because without the housing, we can't do it. And it needs to be a long-term plan. I don't want to be here 22 years from now, have my grandchild out here saying, hey, my grandmother slept underneath the tree, and we're still out here trying to get people homes. That's a shame.
Everybody's got a right to live?
Yeah. Everybody has a right to live. Yeah. Everybody has a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail, because everybody has a right to live. You got it one more time. Hey. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody has a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail, because everybody's got a right to live. That's it. Everybody has a right to live. Can y'all say that? Everybody has a right to live. Come on, everybody has a right to live. Everybody has a right to live. It is a human right, so everybody has a right to live. And the psalmist says, we shall not be moved. Like a tree that is planted by the rivers of water, we shall not be moved. And we are tired of seeing people who are in need of housing being moved from place to place to place to place, because the check still has yet to be signed. My name is Carl Jefferson, and I am part of the tri-chair of the Rhode Island Poor People's Campaign. And I've come to stand in solidarity with the travesty that is still going on within our state. I am here to stand, and it's only been a couple of minutes, and I am cold. So I can't imagine being in an encampment. I can't imagine not knowing where I would call home in this place, just a couple of minutes just out in the cold, and my hands are already cold. And so tonight I grieve, and tonight I stand with those who have no place to call home. But I'm so excited tonight because I know of a person who also had no place to call home. And where we are celebrating in a couple of days Christmas, the reason for the season is due to a person who was born and had no place to lay their head. The scriptures say that foxes have holes and birds have nests, but this child came into the world, and due to social policies, due to governmental policies, his parents had no place to lay. The Savior that we recognize on December 25th had no place to lay his head. And now over 2,000 years later, we are still at a place where now people still, because of policies, systemic policies, systemic racism, systemic policies that's been put in place to keep people poor. The Bible says it like this: the systems that have made people poor. He said he came to bring good news. And so as a pastor, as a preacher, I've come to let the homeless know that there is an advocate who over 2,000 years ago came, and I could identify with what you're going through 2,000 years later because of a system that has created poverty. And so I'm here to stand in solidarity with so many other agencies that continue to raise their voice, continue to cry aloud, continue to share and say that a shelter just can't do it. Say with me, a shelter.
Just shelter.
Come on, come on. I know you're cold. This is how you're going to get warm. A shelter just can't do it. Say it like you know it. A shelter just can't do it. And so I'm part of the Poor People's Campaign, as already stated, a national call for moral revival. And there is Martin Luther King, who started the Poor People's Campaign in 1968. He said that there is nothing new about poverty. What is new, however, is that we now have the resources to get rid of it, and there is no deficit in human resources. The deficit is in the human will. And so we speak to the human will tonight. For the time has come for an all-out war on against poverty. That's what Martin Luther King said in 1968. And here we are 50 years later still saying that there is a problem and that there is a war against people who are experiencing poverty due to systemic and systematic poverty that's keeping people poor. And so, like King, we are calling on the state. We are calling on our nation. We are calling on those who have no voice. We are calling on those who don't have a voice, but there are 8 to 11 million people that are either homeless or are on the brink of homelessness. We already heard from the one that's been impacted. Gail, she came and spoke so well and spoke of how there are people sleeping in cars, children in cars. People have no place to go. People are trying to make $1 but still can't make 15 cents out the dollar to be able to pay for rent that continues to go higher and higher while we still can't get $15 an hour. There is a problem within our world, within our nation, and definitely within our state. And while in our country there are 5, a study went out, and there are 5 vacant homes for every homeless person within our country. Go figure that there is at least 5 vacant homes. If you walk through some of these neighborhoods, there are homes that are vacant that could be affordable for people that are in shelters. Shelters can't do it. We need housing. And so we cry out tonight, a night where it is the darkest of one of the nights. It's one of the shortest nights because it's called the solstice, but it's one of the darkest nights. And here during this week, we also look at our Jewish brothers and sisters who are commemorating and celebrating what we call Hanukkah, which was a celebration. It's a celebration that a miracle happened, where within that culture, they only had a little bit of oil. And that little bit of oil lasted for over 8 days. And it was a miracle, they said, that happened because something that had no light became, and it lasted long. And I'm here to say to those that are in darkness and to those that are experiencing homelessness, there is hope tonight, because if it could be done for a week where we celebrate Hanukkah, Oh my goodness, I want to let you know that the light is come and is coming to shine upon the darkness that we are experiencing with homelessness. You can clap on that. It's okay. We're looking for a miracle. Like those that are commemorating Hanukkah, they call it a miracle. That in 8 days a miracle happened. Oh, we are reminded by the dreidel that a miracle took place. And if a miracle could happen for them, then we're calling on a miracle to happen to those thousands who are now homeless and still in need of a home right here in Rhode Island. And so we cry out tonight again for the 500 that still do not have a place to call home. We think that a Band-Aid approach to this problem will solve the problem. We think that taking people from the State House and putting them in a shelter will solve the problem. We think that putting people's belongings in a truck and taking it to a junk pile place is going to solve the problem. Matter of fact, I say woe to those who stole people's belongings without their permission just because a law was passed. Woe unto you, woe unto you. And so they're in a shelter. But if you know, like I know, a shelter is not a home. We just heard that people are on cots, not mattresses. People are in chairs, not recliners. And matter of fact, there is no dignity. There is no privacy. There is no pride in saying that the dollars that are being spent is going to a shelter when you promised that everyone would have a home or an adequate place to stay, like a shelter, a hotel room. We are still here to remind you that just because a judge said you have to get off the property, that we're still here and we're not going nowhere until the check is signed. So many are looking for a decent place to call home. And if we don't have a home yet to give you, then at least provide a hotel room where there's adequate water, a private bathroom, a place where I could at least put my belongings and know that they may not be stolen or taken or be in the open. Oh, what about the children? What about the mothers? What about the fathers that still are in need of a place to go? But I would not dare have my child in a shelter and around strangers that I do not know. That is neglect of the state. That is neglect of putting people in a place and you do not know their personal profile. Don't give me a shelter when you said you would give me adequate housing. And so I'm reminded of a story called The Wizard of Oz. And this woman who had been displaced, taken out of her comfort zone, and she went to this place called Oz. And she was looking for the wizard, who was the one who could do great things. But unfortunately, the wizard, who made great promises, could not keep the promise of at least trying to get her home. And I want to say to those who are still struggling with homelessness and looking for a home, I want you to understand that the wizard has failed in policy. The wizard has failed with still not signing the check. The wizard has failed with no plan. The wizard has failed to think that just putting a shelter in place would be the answer and the fix-all and the be-all. But I'm here to say that a Band-Aid can never heal wounds. Wounds cannot be healed by a Band-Aid approach. And so we're here to still remind you, we're not looking for Band-Aids. We're not looking for a handout. We need an uplift. And an uplift is like this, that we're beginning to click our heels. And we're beginning to click like Dorothy. And we're beginning to open up our mouths and say, there is no place like home. Can you say it with me? There is no place like home. Say it like they mean it. There is no place like home. Say it so they can hear it. There is no place like home. And so we're not looking for shelter. We're looking for what was promised, a home. And so we're going to keep on clicking until we get a shower. We're going to keep on clicking until we get privacy. We're going to keep on clicking until you give us keys to at least a hotel room. We're going to keep on clicking until you get these vacant apartments and begin to fix them and provide adequate and affordable housing that we can pay. We're going to keep on clicking until you hear us, and we're not going away. So come on, let's click. Let's click, let's click. If we gotta click once, we'll click again. If we gotta click twice, we'll click again. But we're gonna do like Dorothy did. Click until we say there is no place like home. Say it again. There is no place like home. A shelter is not a home. And so we're going to demand that our policies change. We're going to demand the money, the surplus that's still here, that you begin to provide adequate and affordable housing. We're demanding also that if we have a housing person to do the job, either they're going to do it or we're going to say you are inept, you are inadequate, and you are incapable of doing the job. And who might need to do the job is like Gail, who's been impacted and knows what the problem is and knows how to solve the problem and gave us a solution, and she ain't even getting paid triple digits to tell how to get the problem solved. Somebody, we're going to keep clicking until we get our home. So say it with me till they hear it. There is no place like home. There is no place like home. There is no place like home. And that's what we're going to do until the whiz or somebody understands. But what I've come to find out, even with the whiz, that even though the wizard could not do it because he was inadequate, she found it within herself. She found it with the community. She found it with changing policies that she created a home. And so until we see policies change, until we see those being impacted being given a lift up than a handout, we're going to keep coming until we see change. We shall not be moved. Like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved. And just like Jesus, born in a manger, born in instability, born as an immigrant, born and did not have adequate health care, did not have adequate housing. But you know what? We are now here 2,000 years ago, recognizing the birth, recognizing his sacrifice, recognizing what he gave to the world. So he said, I've come to give good news to the poor, to those that the system has kept down, kept low, kept out, kept least. He said, I came to bring good news. And so I give you good news tonight. Joy to the world. The Lord has come. All we got to do is receive. So receive what's about to come. Your home, baby, is coming. It's on its way. Why? Because we're not going to stop. We're not going to lay down. We're not going to be quiet. But we're going to keep on moving forward and not one step back. Come on and just give a scream, because this is what it's about on this season of Christmas. Caring for the least, caring for those that have no voice, caring for those that are in need of help. And so I'm here to tell you, start clicking your heels, because click, 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 you will have a home. Because we're not going to stop. We're not going to be silent until we see this happen. Come on and let's just clap our hands and give the King some praise. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. One more time, say it. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. One step forward and not one step
Back. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Carl. Took us to church, took us everywhere. And I'm a little speechless right now. Can we give Pastor Carl another hand? That was amazing. We need to keep pushing forward, and that's what we need to keep in our minds. We are not stopping until this is solved, and it is not solved right now. And I think we had one more speaker who I cannot see. Oh, I see him now. And we have Dr. Nathan Paul. And I would love you to tell us about the people you have been working with.
There's not much more that can be said that hasn't already been said. I think what I would love to share with y'all are the stories of the people that myself, so many of the social workers, community health workers, advocates work with day in, day out, and to make it real what's going on in Rhode Island. We're talking about a child that was born in a manger. Just 2 months ago, there was a grandmother with her daughter who was pregnant and a 1-year-old who were living in a car for a few days right here in Rhode Island. We worked really, really hard to try to find them shelter, but all the shelters were full. It took friends of friends who could put together enough money to put them in a hotel room eventually. So that story is not that out of date. It's very real. It's happening right now. Last year, or earlier this year, when we did the point in time count in Woonsocket, we went to areas that we knew people were staying at, and it was so cold that no one was in their tents. We actually found people were just walking around trying to keep warm that night. Every single person could not stay still, because if they stayed still, they might just as well freeze to death. Instead, what we found was gatherings of tents, and in the midst of them, children's toys. I don't know if you can think about what that means. What that means to have little dolls and children's toys in these cold settings outside. What that means about what the state has, how bad and how big the state has failed. We have to make this real. This isn't just statistics. This isn't just slogans. This is people's lives. And what we're asking about, if the question is asked about how much is enough, it'll only be enough when we see each of these people as human beings, as our brothers and sisters, nothing short of that. So how far would you go for your own brothers and sisters? How far would you go for your own people? That's how we have to address this issue. It's not just about, oh, we moved the people who happen to be protesting in under a roof, problem solved. No, you're missing the point. You're not listening. It has to be deeper and bigger than that. This crisis is man-made. It is an artificial crisis. There are empty buildings throughout the state. This never had to happen. It's never had to happen. And so why does it keep happening? It's because we've been told narratives. We've been told, oh, some of these people deserve it. They never earned their spot. We've been told that, oh, if they just pick themselves up by their bootstraps, that's all they need. I work with patients who are working 2 to 3 jobs out of their tent. They're going in and out. Sometimes they lose their job because they can't keep their clothes clean enough. How the heck are they supposed to come out of this pit when they're constantly fighting just to make ends meet? And you're saying that they're not working hard enough? And it's not just them. People are saying that, oh, look, the shelters are there, but there's not enough workers to fill them. That has got to be one of the biggest lies ever told. If you've ever interacted with the workers, with our frontline healthcare and frontline community health and social workers, you would know that they are bending over backwards. They're sacrificing their body and soul to help how many ever individuals they can. So many of these people who are doing this work struggled with their own trauma and went through homelessness themselves or went through substance use themselves, and they've clawed and dug their way out. But then rather than just going as far away from the problem as they can get, they know that these are their brothers and sisters, and they decided not to turn their backs. And we pay them minimum wage, or even sometimes below minimum wage, depending on the number of hours they're working. That's how we treat them. That's how we show the respect to the work they're giving, the life-giving work they're giving. So when we're talking about there's not enough people working to staff these shelters, pay them more. Pay them what they deserve. Give them also the dignity. And now we'll start talking. We heard recently also that patients, or some of our patients have told us that those of them who are in the armory now have had their medication stolen. It is not the final solution, as much as the governor and the state government will try to sell. It is one tiny step. All we had is 50 cots and maybe 50 chairs that we can cram people into, but we all know that if you're trying to make this a one-time deal where once people get housed, we keep pushing them into permanent housing, it can't be just shelter. We need to give them the support. We need to give people what they need to survive and thrive. Our patients that we see day in and day out, our clients, the people, our brothers and sisters, they just want to be seen. Let's start with just being seen, and then let's listen to all the solutions that we have. People have already laid out the solutions, and right now, what we need is leadership that does not hide behind rules and regulations they make up halfway through a protest to protect their own image and their own reputation. We need leadership that has boots on the ground, that's listening to the people who are doing the work and actually giving those people what they need to solve this crisis, because this crisis is solvable. It is a man-made crisis, and it will be us, the community, the people, who will have to force our government to solve this the way it needs to be solved, which is permanently. Thanks.
Thank you, Nithin, Dr. Paul. And we have an outreach worker who works with Dr. Paul. And if you would come on up, your name's Kristen? Krista. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all. I know it's cold. I'll keep it brief. My name's Krista. I've been working in Woonsocket for a little over 4 years. I've been doing outreach work for about 3.5. April, it'll be 4 years. I'm so grateful to the people in the community there who have shown me like the utmost compassion and respect, and that's what I'm going to ask that the governor and that anyone else in a position of power does for the people who are living out on the street right now. There are dozens of people that I personally know, and I'm really sick and tired of being told that they don't exist. I keep going to meetings, and being told that we need to give better counts of numbers. Show up and look these people in the face. It's not that hard. They're everywhere. They're on every corner. They're in the park. They're in Woonsocket. There are meal sites all over the state. All you have to do is show up and look these people in the face. They are dying. Yesterday morning, I got out of a meeting at 9:30 and ended up before 10 a.m. at a building that we know people are staying at. A friend of mine I watched come out on a stretcher with EMTs doing chest compressions. He had a medical emergency when he was staying with a friend. The friend recently just got subsidized housing, and this person was crashing with them. The friend said that he was letting him stay there because he was cold. I do not want the consolation for me or the staff that I work with or the community that I'm in to be that he didn't die in the cold. It is inexcusable, the lack of help that we are giving people, the lack of people, these people have serious healthcare issues, major medical conditions. They're sleeping on the street. There's people with MS. There's people with so many different complex health issues sleeping on the street tonight, right now. I think it was 33 on my way in. I think it's going to be in the teens on Christmas. Merry Christmas. I want everyone to wake up to this problem, because this is, ever since COVID hit, it's been gas on a fire. This isn't the problem it was 10 years ago. This isn't the problem it was 5 years ago. This is the problem that is right now. Shuffling people from hotel to hotel across the state isn't solving the problem. Let people live with dignity in affordable homes. People do not need to be policed. Yes, we need hotel rooms. Absolutely. People are gonna die if we don't give them hotel rooms. So let's open up the purse strings a little bit, y'all. It's fucking Christmas.
Woo! Yeah, go Krista!
Excuse my language, I know it's a holiday. I just need to say, I'm so sick of this. I've been standing asking nicely. I'm here in a role as a personal person, not at my work right now, I'm just saying. I can't stand to look at these people and tell them we're doing all we can if we're not doing all we can. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do that's different this year? Last year I stood here nicely, asked nicely, begged nicely, and I'm done. So what are we gonna do?
Thank you, Krista. Yes, we have another speaker who has information about what has actually been happening, because there were some people that were given hotel rooms. They were not supposed to tell anybody, but we have some things to share with you.
Hey everyone, I went this morning to go visit a friend who had been sleeping out in the state house during this time and was displaced due to the governor and his friend, judge, who displaced our friends. And I'm gonna keep her name out of it, but she was put in a hotel room. She was offered a hotel room. She was told not to tell people where she's staying, and she only got it for a week. The governor gave her a hotel room for a week. She will be out of that hotel room by Friday. And that is the truth of what many of our friends are experiencing, that they are not telling us about, that they're not being honest about. And what this, any attempt that the state, shame. And I want to take 1 second to talk about shame, because I went to see that friend who had a week in a hotel room, and she looked like a completely different person. She was rested. Her eyes were bright. She was admittedly clean. She couldn't stop hugging me because she was happy to finally be able to hug, because she was like, I showered, I rested, and she felt better. And she came to me, she goes, I think things are going to turn around. And mostly that was due, as she said, admittedly, mostly that was due to the fact that she got a couple of nights sleep, and she was warm, and she had running water, which we are also now offering people at the Armory. So let's get the story straight.
Tell it.
We're not asking, we're asking for housing, and we're asking for dignity. Dignity. And what this state continues to heap on our friends is shame. And I want to tell people what's really happening. The narrative that the people in this state, the state house, Dan McKee, Josh Saul, and the other people that are leading the state, tell people, try a little harder. Well, my message to the leaders of the state is, you try a little harder.
Woo! Yeah!
You work a little harder.
Woo!
How about that? The message that they give people when they are struggling and they don't give them running water is, clean yourself up. But I know whose hands are dirty. Woo! And the people whose hands are dirty are in this building right now. Woo! The governor, Dan McKee, your hands are dirty. Woo! Josh Saul, your hands are dirty. Woo! Legislators, Speaker of the House, Senate President, your hands are dirty. Woo! Because there are people in your state right now, while you are sitting on millions of dollars, woo, who don't have running water. There are people in your state right now who are warming their child with their body heat. Your hands are dirty. Woo! And what I love about what Pastor Carl shared with us about the Wizard of Oz story, and he's talking about how you meet Oz, we've seen the man behind the curtain. He's not as smart as you thought. He doesn't have it all in control. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That is the man behind the curtain. And he's failing people. And what I love about this story is that we gather, on our journey, we gather friends. We build our own narrative. And we can build our own kingdom. We can build a kingdom built on care, on human dignity, that every person is entitled to a roof over their head. Every person is entitled to a warm bed. Every person is entitled to food on their table. Every person is entitled to clean clothes and clean school and a job that pays them, so they don't have to fear about being able to provide for their children. Woo! And so the people whose hands are dirty, the people who need to work a little harder, the people who are deserving of shame, are the men that run this state. That's you, Dan McKee, that's you, Josh Saul, and that's the leaders of the state house. And until you turn it around, until you give us a state of care, we will be unrelenting. We will make sure that you feel the shame. We will make sure that you feel the pain until our friends are cared for in the way that they deserve. Woo!
Thank you. And I don't know if you noticed what was going on behind us, but I have a friend that would like to share what was going on behind us.
Basically, I was trying to show what it's like a little bit to be homeless, and I'm recently homeless. I come from a white upper middle class family. I graduated from Rhode Island College, summa cum laude. I'm a Rhodes Scholar. I have a master's degree from Clemson in textile engineering. Ich spreche Deutsch. Watashi wa Nihongo hanashimasu. Parlo non va bene l'italiano. Ni hao, I speak several languages. I've been all over the world. I'm an engineer. I like to dance. I sing. I play the piano. I'm like so cool. And I'm like, you know, homeless now. And it's like, it just happens like this, and the next thing you know, you're literally, okay, I'll back up. In August 21st, I was evicted from my apartment in Pawtucket. It was my son's apartment. We were starting a new business. My mother was paying my rent, and she promised to. My parents were okay. My dad passed away a few years ago. Not very wealthy, but $1 million house in Bristol, property, lots of annuities and things like that. My big sister decided that she wasn't going to share it with anyone, and she was the executor, and she sold my mom's. My dad built a house in Bristol during the Rimfac crisis, and it was a dream house. He said, I came in this house on a plank during construction, and I'm going out of this house on a plank. And he did. My sister sold the house for over $1 million without my mother's permission. I'm digressing, sorry, but she kept the money. And August, my rent stopped getting paid by my sister because my mom passed away in May. And I had issues with the property manager who wouldn't sign a simple paper so I could get 18 months of rent relief. And I couldn't get heat assistance. And I was down to not having $2 to take the bus from Pawtucket to go look for a job. Seriously. And I found a job. I got a job walking. I had no phone and anything. And I was supposed to start the job in Cranston at the CalArt building at 9 a.m. And I walked from my house to the bus stop in Pawtucket, and I didn't have $2. I couldn't have it. And the bus stopped, and I said, please, I begged him, I said, can I please, I'm starting a new job today. Can you let me go? He stopped at the next stop and kicked me off the bus. This is all true. And I couldn't believe, I was director of international sales for Torrey International in New York. I was making $250,000 a year. That yeah, and here I couldn't get a job because I couldn't get to work because I didn't have the $2. I'm digressing, but when okay, I was just on the way here from the church. I found these two black easels, the Lord, right by the church across the street. And I thought these would be perfect for our purposes. And I was like, but how am I going to carry them here? So I found this stroller in a dumpster right next to it. And I put them there. And the suitcase I found earlier today at 7-Eleven because I wanted to have more room. And that's how it works. That's how you live. If you want to get something done, you have to find strollers and wrap it up. Anyway, it was sort of a play, yes, just to show what it's like. It's terrible. The first night I slept, on the ground in Burnside Park when I left my apartment with my jacket. A rat, went inside my jacket while I was sleeping to get warm, and I woke up. I felt a little, what's this? And the rat woke up and scattered out of my jacket. It freaked me out. There I went from. It's crazy. But the point is, it can happen to any of us. All of us. It's so easy. And we're not prepared. And people who don't experience it, they think we're invisible. They don't want to see us. Have no idea and no compassion and no empathy at all for us. Anyway, that's sorry I had to talk all out. But thank you to people like Pamela and Mathewson Street Church and everyone in this group that was getting so much power, and I feel now fantastic. I'm actually today I'm enjoying being homeless because I'm stronger. I have support. I see that human beings can love each other like we're supposed to, and compassion, and get things done, and change the world. Yep. Change the world. We are all on this planet together. Amen. We are all earthlings. We all love our children. Why can't we just always love each other? And it's happening right here. It's happening right here. And call it Jah, call it Yahweh, call it God, call it Allah, call it whatever you want. But it's a wonderful, fantastic power. And we can change the world. Change the world. Just by caring about other people. Don't walk by someone on, you see this guy lying on the street. Oh yeah, don't touch him because he's dirty. He chooses to sleep on the street. But I'm sorry.
Can I ask you that? Does anyone choose to sleep on the street? Because, you know, the governor has said that we actually want people to be living on the street. He said that about us, about this group. Do we want people to be sleeping on the street? No. We don't want people to be sleeping on the street. We want safe, dignified housing. And people are only on the street if there isn't a safe place for them to be, right?
Right.
Right. Yes, everyone does deserve it. Yes, there are.
It's a basic survival. It's more than a right.
Right.
We're losing the compassion and empathy and cooperation as humans
Yep.
that got us here. That
Yes.
how we became the genome we are.
Right. And we've got to find our way back. And we're trying to find our way back. Thank you. So one of the last things I want to leave you with is that there are 36,000 people in Rhode Island who do not have a place, who are poor and low wealth. 36,000. There are 140 million in this country. But in Little Rhodey, there's 36,000 who are $400 away from trauma and tragedy. We are much closer to all becoming homeless than becoming a millionaire, and we need to start understanding that and taking it seriously so it does not happen. So I want to close this up because I said we were going to be done, and I had something in my, so I need you guys to follow me. Are you ready? Yes. Rise up, we're gonna rise up.
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 Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Because the people united will stand our ground.
Because the people united will stand our ground.
Once more. Rise up, we're gonna rise up.
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 Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Because the people united will stand our ground.
Because the people united will stand our ground.
3 times. Rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up. Okay, forward together.
Not one step back.
What? I can't hear you. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Thank you. We'll see you again soon.